Welcome back, everyone. Day 4 of the 5-day challenge to game on, level up your career. Excited to have all of you rejoining with me today. My name is Caitlin Johnson, and I am a Master Certified Performance Coach. And I've had the privilege of being able to coach and impact over 70,000 global leaders on how to achieve epic results within their personal and professional lives using gamification strategies. And that's what this entire 5-day challenge is all about. Leveraging gamification design techniques for you to be able to identify your innately motivating strategies, your inner game player, so to speak, and how you can use that to level up your career. Each day has been a challenge that we've been going through to help you become clearer on what purpose-driven work looks like for you, understanding your natural talents and strengths, and then how to infuse that into purposeful, meaningful work for you. Yesterday, day 3, we were talking about leveling up your career avatar and reviewing how to optimize your LinkedIn profile and your resume. Dustin Dale, professional keynote speaker and executive coach, joined us to provide some phenomenal tips and recommendations on how to increase your marketability by using those materials. And we've got some really fantastic feedback from that session where one particular comment I was messaged said, amazing advice on how to optimize LinkedIn profile. And I have several takeaways that I can implement today. I have work to do. So awesome that you're learning some new things and able to apply it right away. So let's reflect real quick just on what have we been doing over these last couple days. Day 1, we started out with purpose mapping and designing a path forward using a structure of digging deep to understand where you want to take your life, what feels purposeful, what is meaningful to you. Day 2, we started to look at ourselves, creating our career avatar. And when I say career avatar, this is who you are at work, understanding your strengths and values and how to apply those into the workplace. Day 3, which was yesterday, I just mentioned, we started to talk about leveling up that career avatar by your marketing materials, specifically resume, LinkedIn. So now we're ready to network. We have an idea of where we want to go. We understand a little bit more about what we offer the world based on our talents and our values. And we've got some marketing materials at the ready. So now we have to decide how we're going to build our networking strategy. Want to also remind everyone that there is a worksheet to go along with all of this information, and you can certainly check out my profile on LinkedIn to review the past recordings if you are joining us today for the first time. Be sure to engage. I see comments coming into the chat already. It's good to see. Marty, welcome back. Thank you so much. He's already engaging into the chat. So engage. There will be 2 winners at the end of this session to get some wonderful prizes. All right, so we're going to keep with the gaming theme, right? And talking about leveling up and getting ready to use all of the information into our networking strategy. And I want to talk about game player type real quick before I introduce my special guest. So networking, I'm curious, are there any socializers in the room? We talked about gamifying game player types the other day. And so socializers, this may be where you just really lean in and understand how to partner with others. And for those that may be going after other things, we can talk about that too within your networking strategy. The secret weapon to being able to level up and identify your teammates, differentiate from your competitors, aka other job seekers, is through networking. And so today we're going to review some resources on how to develop a me in 30-second pitch. We're also going to talk about, okay, I just scheduled a virtual coffee chat. Now what? What do I say once I get this person on the phone? We're going to talk about having a structure for that as well as some follow-up information if you're reaching out to recruiters or hiring managers. So we've got a lot in store today. Your challenge today is to take a couple screenshots of the information shared and start to work on your me in 30-second pitch. So with that, I am going to start to introduce you to my special guest, Ed Crowe, as we discuss how to identify those teammates and differentiate from opponents with using networking. So Ed, he is a vice president of talent acquisition for KeHe Distributors. Previously held a senior director of talent acquisition position at a Fortune 40 retail organization. And he's a visionary, forward thinker, and master networker. So I'm so excited to have you on board. And we're just going to have a conversation today about your tips and recommendations for networking, and then also from the lens of talent acquisition. What can you share for those who are looking to advance to their next level and look for a different job? So welcome, Ed. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that very nice introduction.
Well, Ed and I go back, and actually I have to tell you a story about how we ended up meeting, and it's a good story, Ed, don't worry about it. But it's actually a really good example of networking within an organization. And so I was newer to the organization and had a chance to meet with Ed, and it was a quick conversation. And he did what he did best, which is asking questions, being curious. He's in talent acquisition. He's always looking for the next, candidate. So he was asking me about well, what else do you do? And so I shared with him my entire background with gamification and goals and execution. And he's like, we could use some of that. Let's partner together. And so for a while, he and I developed some incredible strategies. And I was able to use all of my strengths and talents and partner with Ed in that. So a really great example of always have your me in 30-second pitch ready, because Ed, I don't know if you knew what you were getting yourself into when we started.
Well, no, you see, what you failed to mention is that originally we didn't get off on the right foot, did we?
No, and I wasn't going to mention that, but you're welcome.
But this is an example of when you actually do connect. And, I am inquisitive. I enjoy people. I think people are fascinating. And I love hearing people's story. So, but I think I became inquisitive about you. You brought that out as well, right?
Yeah.
And the more and more I heard your story, right? And it wasn't, a long sort of, biography of your back. It was just very, very interesting. And what it did is it really piqued my interest, right? When you talked about some of the work that you'd done. And yeah, straight away, like selfishly, I was like, I think I could use this in talent acquisition. I've never heard about this before. And just for everybody, this is with regards to 4DX, 4 disciplines of execution. And it is now my operating system. So I use it. I use it, at home life as much as possible. But in talent acquisition, it's my operating system. It fits our functions so well. So a lot of credit for Caitlin for bringing me into that world. I'm now obsessed with it.
Thank you. Yeah. And actually, really great plug there too, because as we go into finishing this challenge, the next phase, if you're interested in wanting to know more, how do I continue to connect all of these great learnings, is the continued coaching course I'm offering called Boldly Becoming, where we'll get really nitty gritty on some of the 4 disciplines of executions, where it's all about executing now on the information that you've learned. And we'll go into depth within that session. And all right, I have to address, because you called it out, that, Ed and I stepped on his toes accidentally. I was new in the zoo, didn't know who was who. Love that rhyme there. And was bold. Remember, I shared recently that that's one of my core values. I was bold and tenacious, and I was asking questions, and I accidentally stepped over Ed. And so I called to right the ship and apologize. And it was in that conversation. This is where I'm saying, always have your pitch ready. It was in that conversation that he and I continued to have this amazing dialogue on how we could partner together. And it was all also because I was clear on my strengths. I understood, what direction I want to build within my life. And so when when I was least expecting it, I had an opportunity to share that. So wanted to share that story because that's real life applicable components of everything that we've been talking about so far.
Yeah, because I liked it. I'm like, we've got a hustler here. We've got someone that's like pushing forward. Yeah, I loved it.
Yep. Now, Ed, you had also talked about, you became inquisitive. You really like to, understand about people. I would love for a minute for you to share with the group what your top 5 strengths are from Gallup Strengths Finder, because I think the group will see some of the connections about where you're naturally talented and how it benefits your current role as VP of Talent Acquisition.
Yeah, so I had to remind myself earlier. So mine are woo, communication, positivity, competition, and includer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if I just kind of pull out a couple of things there, woo actually stands for winning people over within the Gallup's language. But the positivity, the communication, competition, and includer, really great skill sets for someone who needs to get to know people, and find, a good match. Like, help me understand you so I can put you in the right position, and both be successful. So thank you for sharing that. Okay,
Yeah.
go
Sorry, I was
ahead.
just about to say,
Yeah.
and I know we're sort of bounce, me, I'll sort of bounce around a little bit here, but some of it again, it sort of drives that inquisitive side of me, where I'm interested in people, and if you're authentic and that comes across, right, people are more likely to give up a bit of themselves and answer those questions and go a little deeper as well, right, and then you start to
Mhm.
build even more meaningful connections.
Yes, absolutely. Being able to really connect, and that the thing of it is, though, you have to go through that self-discovery and that understanding of, what you offer and who you are in order to really be that authentic person. And so we discussed quite a bit of that through different exercises in this 5-day challenge to help you do that so that you're ready to then make that pitch and build that meaningful relationship and connection. So let's talk about that, Ed. I will bring up some slides in a few minutes, Olivia, my magic wizard behind the curtain. But before that, Ed, would love to know what are your favorite networking tips as you're building a strategy to just communicate. And you communicate naturally, so help us understand, what works for you.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this, and I when I talk to teams internally here, I always say talent acquisition is the sales and marketing arm of HR, right? And as a networker, as a job seeker, or someone looking, ready to move careers or roles and the rest of it, it's all about selling yourself and how you market yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be authentic with this, but I think you do need a bit of a go-to-market strategy in some ways, right? So you look at your low-hanging fruit in many respects. So people you already know, you already have a connection with. That's and again, it's that sort of friendship circle, but those that you work with, it's right there in front of you. And again, sort of being bold with that and saying, hey, this is my story, this is my journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? What do you
Yep.
think? Can I get some advice? Who do you know? Right. So making, and again, I keep saying in an authentic way. Because I think sometimes you can sort of oversell yourself a bit, and and it sometimes to some people comes across as like a bit of me, but really using good connections, and friendships and co-workers, straight out of the gate, and then you've got connections to them, right? You sort of build that circle even more. You can do that through social circles, in any other way. You connect with people on LinkedIn is just amazing, right? When I started in recruitment executive search, there's no such thing. I had to spend hours and hours a day name gathering, calling companies, right? And then I would have to read about their companies and in the industry, especially when I started out in a certain area, and almost try to become an expert. So when I did get that opportunity to connect with them, it could actually bring some value to the
Mm-hmm.
conversation. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, at the same time, um, bringing some authenticity to it. You
Yeah.
know,
What I love about what you said too is starting off with the low hanging fruit, the people you know, because that's also a really great place too to practice your pitch. So I'll talk when we get into that, right? Is like as you're building it, you need to make sure you selected the right words that come out of your mouth naturally. Because what you write on paper may be completely different from when you actually practice it out loud and you realize, yeah, that was overselling, or, ooh, I could be stronger with my word choices, or that was way too much to say. So if you start out with the people you know, you can just naturally get some of that feedback before you go to some of like the hard hitters, or individuals within companies that you want to network with, or recruiters through online or something along those lines.
yeah, it is. It's practice and repetition in many ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't want to sort of go, hey, I want to connect with you and have a coffee with you just to practice my pitch, right? But actually, if you're upfront and authentic, you go, hey, this is my story. Like, I want to practice some things, right? As long as you're upfront, and I think you're open about where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I think I think that's important. But yeah, I totally with you. Yeah, I've come off back of some conversations, and I'm like, I'm not sure that went very well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
look back through it, and you can ask for feedback, or did I come across right there, or
Yes,
and you
exactly.
start to refine.
Yes. Now, Marty asks a really great question, and I'm going to transition us into the slides now because I'm going to give you some ideas of how to hold that conversation without coming across as it is all me, me, me. And then Ed, of course, I'd love for some of your thoughts as well. So, because his question, Marty, is how do you avoid the perception that you're only trying to connect to build your own wealth? So we'll talk a little bit about that. I want to go into the building the pitch. We've actually been kind of building upon this entire day. I've referenced day 4 in almost every single day so far of the week. And I'm going to have Olivia make this a little bit larger so that you can take a screenshot of this. Because again, this is your challenge. And so today we only have the 45 minutes to provide amazing content and value to you and give you the templates and resources. So you're probably going to need to finish them after we wrap up this call. So this is a me in 30-second power pitch format. And if you haven't guessed already, I love a freaking good map, right? And so map started off with our purpose mapping at the beginning. We've got this map here essentially to help you formulate what you're going to say within your 30-second pitch. And then I'm going to give you a map of basically how to hold those networking conversations. So in this 30-second power statement, pitch, elevator pitch, whatever you choose to call it, obviously you have to start with your name. My name, and I gave the example here, Jennifer Roberts. And then what is your experience? So thinking about, okay, sure, job titles, things that you've done within your career, but if you're looking to transition, you've got to dig a little deeper within, where are my strengths? Where do I want to go? What does that look like? So pulling out the strengths that are transferable to then call those out as this is my experience. Dustin the other day gave some really great ideas about, data driven examples as bullet points on your resume. You could pull, some of those into this as well. So starting to kind of list out what is your experience in. The next column is, I'm seeking. What are you going after? Reference your purpose map at this point, to understand, you're looking for new opportunities. Are you looking to continue within the space that you're in? Is there a particular job title that you want to put within this column? And then the last part is my ask. So you've got to have some sort of call to action. When you're networking with individuals and you've got them on the phone, you need to help them understand what you want out of the conversation. So there is, to Marty's question, there is a part of this which you do need to be bold and say, here's what I'm looking for from you. Ed provided some ideas, which was, are you looking for advice? Are you asking for, who do you know that you could connect me with? And in this example here, I've given some other bullet points as well. So once you put together your, bullet point ideas, you can start to stream a really concise sentence together, 2 or 3 sentences. And this is the part where, it all makes good sense when it's written down, but then you need to practice it. So Adam was talking about practicing, Adam Pingle, when he joined with us earlier in this week. Both he and I have been public speaking teachers. I'm going to give you a public speaking teaching tip. Practice at least 5 times out loud. If you want to take it to the next level, I highly encourage you to pull your phone out and record yourself as you are saying this, because at least in my experience, it makes me nervous enough because I say to myself, well, I'm going to listen to what it was I just said to see what worked, what didn't. And just knowing I'm going to listen to myself makes me cringe. And so it kind of replicates a little bit of that nervous environment. And I'll tell you, the first 2-3 times I flub it up. I might not even get through the first sentence, and so I'm realizing, I can't quickly say some of the words that I thought I wanted to say, so I'll change them. And so by practicing 5 times and recording yourself, you're really trying to mimic that opportunity of a real life opportunity to say your pitch. I'm going to pause there. I just said a whole lot. Would love, Ed, if you want to chime in on anything here, and then also to see if there's any questions in the chat about this particular format.
I love this, and I'll tell you why. So again, going back too many years, when I first started an executive search, back before LinkedIn and stuff, when it was all about you got to get your 100 calls in a day, sales calls, right, cold calls, and candidate calls, and I got very good training, thankfully. But I had a specific script, right? So even 6 months into this job, where I'd gone through this script 100 times a day, and you do the math, I still had that script in front of me at all times. And what it did is it got me into a habit, right? And then it just became so natural.
Mm-hmm.
I could feel it. And then it gave me confidence. So, excuse me. So I didn't mind picking up the phone. I didn't mind that outreach. And the other thing I like in here is when you say my ask, I say to guys on my team, if you put that cold call in and you talk to somebody, don't say, do you know anybody I could talk to? It's like, who do you know? Right. So it's just like little things like that, I think, make a difference. And then bringing that, hey, I what can I bring to the table as well? So I really like this. Resonates.
Great. I've got some comments in the chat. Love the record yourself tip from Jessica. Fantastic. Julia mentions practice requires some boldness, even with yourself and the phone. Yeah, absolutely. But the practice, to your point, Ed, helps bring out the authenticity because you're becoming comfortable of, this truly is you. And we're not, in our world and society, we're not told to self-promote, right? We're supposed to be humble, but yet this is our opportunity and we have to brand and be our best advocate. So you have to get comfortable with how you're talking about yourself. So the practice helps with that. John mentions the I am a section within this part always trips me up. There are so many things I want to put there. And that's a great call out because you sometimes want to put all of it. But here's a tip and suggestion. Going back to your purpose map, keeping in mind, the clarity of the direction of where you want to go. To execute consistently on something, you're going to get to a point where you have to say no to good things in order to really focus on the great. So when you start to gut check with yourself of all of the amazing skill sets and experiences that you have, looking back at where do I naturally fall, your strengths, because those fuel me. What are my values? If I was to narrow down to 3 to 5 of my amazing experiences, what would those be? So that might give you a tip to help narrow your focus there. Before the ask, Connie asked the question, before the ask, help the person get to know you, and ask is a reference. So we need to trust, connect with, and recommend you to. Okay, perfect. Yeah, great call. And thank you, Olivia, for having that comment on the screen so I could read it. All right, fantastic. Keep putting in any comments you have with this. I'm going to have Olivia switch over to the next slide because I want to talk about, all right, you have reached out. Before I go into this 7-step here, that me in 30 seconds you can use verbally, but you can also copy, paste, and reach out, on LinkedIn or to your connections via email, right? It's clear and concise. Once you have somebody on the phone, how do you conduct this call? And how do you not make it all about me? Well, here you go. The very, very bottom light bulb tip: make the conversation 95% about the person you're talking with, 5% about you. The 7 steps here: take a screenshot. This is how you go about that. So you're getting them on the phone, you're thanking them for their time. You are, expressing why you're connecting with them. Give them your elevator pitch. Then go ahead and ask 3 to 5 questions about their role and perhaps their company. What are the 3 to 5 questions you're interested in asking the person you just got on the phone? End with asking 2 tips or pieces of advice that they have into possibly breaking into that industry or getting into that company, or, moving forward within the direction that you're going. Because Adam had mentioned a great tip too, which was, talking to people in general can give you an idea of jobs that you had no idea even existed. So if we're talking like a random virtual coffee chat with someone you met on LinkedIn, you never know where it's going to go, but you could use this format in even conducting that, meaningful connection conversation. Step 6 there: ask if it's okay to keep in touch if any other questions come up. Always keep that door open, and then thank them again for their time. So again, a lot there. Ed, I'd love to know your thoughts about this, and then want to hear some comments in the chat. And Marty, what do you think about this approach?
I always find that those first few seconds when you approach somebody, right? That the opening, right? The 1 and 2. That's, if you're going to spend any time on getting good at any of these steps here, that opening is just critical. It really does, because it then sets the tone for the rest of it. Right? I get a lot of calls, emails, the rest of it, and sometimes I sort of switch off after a few seconds, just candidly. But if there is something there, if I sense something, and they're up front and they're straightforward, and it's like, hey, you're busy, like, I just need a few minutes, this is why I'm calling. Something that's punchy, but again, like authentic, that I think, hang on, this could be an interesting call. It piques my interest, right? It's pulling out some my inquisitive side. It's giving me a bit of the, sizzle. I'm all about it. I just think it's really, and you got to sort of match your energy levels as well, I think, right? If you contact, you're going to you manage to contact somebody that's just fairly mellow, and right, and you come jumping on the call like how I do sometimes, sort of switch them off. So you sort of match that. It's 101 really, sales calls. But yeah, get the straight out the gates. Get really good at that. Opening that, I think, is really important.
Yeah, something punchy for sure, but going back to you making sure it's authentic. Like, can you really, make sure you see and feel yourself saying whatever that opening is to kind of grab that individual's attention. Especially if you're, when you're reaching out to people, or if it's cold call, there's like 30 seconds, maybe even less, to be able to capture and really think like what's in it for them too. Like you're connecting with them because they may have information for you, and you want to value the fact that they are spending their time with you. So really great feedback there, Ed. And Julia says, this list is gold. Yes, absolutely. And I love a good map. This makes me feel so confident and happy going into a conversation with someone that I don't know and I'm meeting for the first time. The confidence, because I have a flow, I know what I want to say, helps even build that trust and credibility in who I am as an individual, and that you may be more willing to trust me with what I have to say because I'm so put together. So I hope you guys find this really helpful. There's a question in the chat box that says, Ed, what's an example of something a little different you would say to grab someone's attention? Do you have a favorite?
Thank you for that, Jessica. I was just thinking about that actually, because I get some calls where you know somebody is just going through the motions. You know what? It's the ones where if someone says and you know they've been in internal sales or whatever, you know, training, and they say, "Tell me about the issues that you're facing in retaining employees." I'm like, "No." Well,
Mm-hmm.
yes, but no. I just haven't got time. Sorry. Good luck. You know, without being rude. But every now and again, I get a call with someone's network, and they go, "Hey, um, I know you're busy. Uh, done some research on your company. I could do with some help. Like, here's my let me tell you my story, but could I get some advice? Something that's really down to earth." And again, I must have said authentic about 20 times in this call, but being authentic and just saying, "Hey, I just need some help. Can I grab a few minutes of your time?" 9 out of 10 times, I'm like, "Yeah," or, "You know what? Here's my cell phone number. Give me a call in 10 minutes."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's not everybody can pull that off, right? I mean, again, you sort of practice a bit of that approach. It doesn't come naturally to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're introverted, you know. But even then, you can just say, "Hey, I don't do this a lot. I don't reach out to people. That do you mind just helping me out here?" I
Mm-hmm.
mean, really being like that, people aren't ready for it sometimes. You
I
know,
mean,
it's just a different approach.
yeah. I mean, if you think about it too, like if you were to have someone reach out to you and instead of like coming out of the gate like with their ask, really were asking for help. I think as humans, for the most part, we're curious. We're like, oh, well, maybe I can help them. What are they looking for? And I find when I get people on the phone, everyone is usually really warm and open to
Yeah,
hearing what I have to say, and then providing any. And sometimes halfway through the call, you're like, maybe I'm not feeling put together that day, and the call is really, I'm fumbling. It's not really going over that well. Sometimes the person I'm talking to is like, well, how can I help you? Like you called me, you got me on the phone. What is it that I can offer? And so she kind of also sidestep that awkwardness and be like, oh yeah, okay, let me get to it. Having this flow really helps to get there before the other person is confused as to why you even reached out to them.
yeah.
There's a question that says, do you set an expectation of how long your conversation will take? 10 minutes, stick to it. I usually shoot for 20 minutes. Ed, I don't know, on the flip side, let's ask you, like, if I was to reach out to you, how much of your time would you be willing to invest?
I think it's one of those where you got to gauge it a bit from both sides, right? Um, not every conversation's the same. Um, I think because hey, you can have a really good 20-minute conversation, right? Especially if there's good chemistry there, and you've done your research and it just jives. Sometimes it can take an hour. Um, but again, if if you're both getting something from the conversation, it starts to flow, and
Mm.
it can take longer. So that's difficult one to answer. I think it's case by case, but 20 to 30 minutes. I mean, I think you could get a lot from that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what you're looking for when you go into it, I think as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Marty just chimed in too. It looks like he's got a great intro recommendation is, as I have been studying about, insert name or organization here, I have seen your name come up and I would love to get your insights. So that's a really great intro as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to go into the next slide. I want to talk about some follow up. So if you are actively reaching out to hire me, Ed, I'm going to set the stage here, but for a second, and actually, if you could bring both of us back on, and you guys will have a chance to take a screenshot of that. But I want to talk for a second about ghosting. There's so much out there about, like, I've been ghosted and hurt around people applying, and I get it. I was unemployed for 8 months and it is hard, and the differentiating factor for me was networking, getting out from behind the computer screen, technically, and then getting people on the phone and talking. And so it's easy to feel ghosted and that you're not being selected. But can you, from your lens as VP of Talent Acquisition, kind of talk a little bit about your side of the world, of what you guys are up against, and how ghosting may not necessarily need to be taken personally?
Yeah, yeah. I had it's very direct feedback from somebody a long time ago when I was a recruiter, um, and I hadn't got back to this person for like 3 weeks, right? And I says, well, I said it would take several weeks. Like you know, I got other recs on, I got other things I got to do, and this person was like, well, I get that, but um, I've been out of work for 3 months. I got mouths to feed. I really want to join this company. Um, and 3 weeks isn't a lot to you, but it's a huge amount of time for me, right? And I always say that to my recruiters, to have that, have that understanding and empathy. On the flip side, especially when in the current environment, right, labor shortage and huge amount of openings, you have some pretty stressed out recruiters that can have 30, 40 recs upwards. And the level of multitasking and plate spinning is insane. And it is difficult. I mean, the best recruiters put systems in place, right? As much as possible, but it's very difficult to get to everybody timely. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say both both sides of the fence needs to bring some grace to it. But yeah, just know when you're dealing with recruiters, they may have extremely high rec load on, and they're doing their best because they're
Yeah.
also at the will of a hiring manager getting back to them and things like that. But you can do things to own it and make the recruiters' life easier as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
again, when I was a recruiter, there's some people that I would probably go a little bit further in helping them, because I'm like, hey, I think, yeah, they fit the job spec and everything, but this is a good person. Like, they're easy to deal with. They help me. So I think that's important.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to provide a definition because you said job recs. So, for those maybe not in this, lingo, what is a job rec?
Yeah, it's a job opening requisition. So
Okay.
yeah,
So you've got recruiters that juggle 30 to 40 open jobs and have to manage all of the conversations and interviews and things along those for those 30 openings, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
potentially. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for that feedback. I really think it's important that, like you said, on both sides of the fence, we provide grace in this, and it reinforces also for me, you have to be your own advocate. So I actually came across this as a really fantastic template to follow up with hiring managers, and good verbiage as a starting point. You apply your tone and your choice of words, but a really great opportunity, use the opportunity to follow up. And the next question is, okay, well, I should follow up. What should I say? I really liked the tone of this one because it wasn't like, hey, haven't heard from you. What's going on? And like showing your frustration. It is a frustrating, process. There's parts of the application process that are really hard. A lot of people would argue it's broken. But if you come across, like Ed was saying too, of helping out on the other end, then this is a really great tone, in my opinion, of I'm continuing a job search. I wanted to reconnect with you. I see the job is still open. I know how fast paced things can be and how quick things can change. I remain interested. Would love to know, any update or status, right? So it comes across as I'm eager. I'm still available. I'm wondering if you can provide an update, and I would think if a recruiter or a hiring manager has the time that they would, maybe send over a note back with this versus, because I've seen things like, I'm being ghosted. Should I call a paramedic? Like, what's going on? I haven't heard from you. Like, don't take that approach. Like, I don't know if I want to hire you if you have that tone, quite frankly, right? Yeah. So, any thoughts on this, Ed, as an example for following up?
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, it's all those, and on top of that, just being communicative. If a recruiter reaches out to you, um, respond back really quickly. or
Mhm.
make sure you answer the phone or the email or things like that.
Yeah,
So they don't feel as they got to chase you, which is sometimes a bit galling if you've got to chase them. I get it, right? But yeah, being hyper communicative, I think is yeah, I think you're spot on here.
perfect. All right. Any other comments in the chat? And Marty, yeah, it's a good thing we gave the definition of a rec or job requisition. So yes, perfect. All right. I don't see any other comments in the chat, but again, feel free to keep coming back to this if you have other thoughts later. Go back to my profile, look at this recording, type in your questions, and Ed and I would be happy to respond back with any other thoughts that you have later on. So with that, we have only a couple minutes left. We're going to go ahead and wrap up today, and I'll set the stage for tomorrow. So we'll transition these slides into what we're going to talk about tomorrow, which is day 5. You guys have made it. You've hung out with me this long. I love it. Thank you. Day 5, we're going to talk about the side quests. So we've been very thoughtful about how we are understanding ourselves, that deep self-knowing knowledge and reflection. And so we've got to start executing on some of these things now too. And how can we go about that? So that will be day 5, goodness. And we're going to talk about the winners today because I've been giving away this lovely book, Streaking, which we're going to have the first winner is going to get this book. And we're going to talk about this topic, which is a gamification concept of consistently and consecutively taking action. It's different from a habit. Habits, we beat ourselves up for if we don't feel like we've got it on automatic by day 21, right? And so there are certain things that we're going to be working on as a result of all of the information you've learned that may not need to necessarily be a habit, or it may be something that you want to be intentional about and you want to track that progress. So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And we'll have the marketing director join us for that. So Julia, Olivia, I'm so sorry. Olivia, we're going to bring you on screen on Friday, Olivia, and show your amazing face because you've been just phenomenal helping go through all of this. But we're going to pull up the winners today of who the first one is going to receive the book. So Olivia, who do we have that could be the winner for the book? We've had a lot of people engaged today. So Michael, awesome. Thanks for joining today. It's good to see you. And we'll be sending you a copy of that. And our second winner today gets an opportunity to have a 1-hour conversation with myself. And oh my gosh, do we have a lot we could talk about. We could get really clear on your me in 30. We can talk about anything throughout this challenge. So I'm excited to connect with whoever the next winner is. Amanda, well, look at that. It'll be a fantastic time to have a conversation. So congratulations. Thank you for joining today. I love it. I also want to talk about, I gave a little preview of becoming boldly becoming, and this is my continuation course. So this is tip of the iceberg information. There's a lot of value in this 5 days, but we're going to start to connect the dots on, okay, I have a lot of information. I have a lot of foundational words, my strengths, my values. What do I do with this? How do I connect all of this? And so we're going to go into that. And then how do I consistently execute on the direction of where I want to go in my life? So Boldly Becoming, it launches September 7th. Your special price, special offer for everyone joining here is $597 for 6 weeks of really amazing additional content. This offer ends on September 6th, so please be sure to sign up if you want to continue the dialogue on all of this. Ed, you have been phenomenal. Thank you so much for joining with us today and sharing your perspective on networking, sharing your strengths, and then your perspective also within the talent acquisition world. So thank you so much for joining. I appreciate that.
It was an honor. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, everyone. We will see you tomorrow as we wrap up with day 5. Thank you and have a great rest of the day.